Welcome to the Alyosha Society, where we are pursuing truth, beauty, and goodness through great literature. Now, the Alyosha Society presents 5 in 5, where you get the who, what, when, where, most importantly, the why on great works of literature, presumably in about 5 minutes. In this video, we're going to be answering the question, why read the Brothers Karamazov? Let's get right to it. Background and summary. Few would dispute the fact that the Brothers Karamazov is the magnum opus of the Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky. The protagonist, Alyosha, is named after his 3-year-old son, who died 1 month after he began writing the novel. The question of how there can be such a good God in light of unspeakable human suffering looms in the background of this philosophically, theologically rich novel. Dostoevsky himself died less than 4 months after finishing the book in the fall of 1880. Let's get some context here. Russia, middle of the 19th century, a culture war was raging. The more traditional, conservative, Orthodox Christians, also known as Slavophiles, were not happy with what they viewed as the encroachment of Western European ideals and ways upon Russia. The Westernizers, as they were called, were more liberal and progressive in their religious and political views. Other intellectuals like Chernyshevsky and Turgenev weighed in, using their writing skills to advocate for one side or the other. Dostoevsky is adding his voice to this ongoing culture war. Dostoevsky himself was raised in a more conservative Christian home. His parents attended church. They read the Bible with him and his siblings. And young Fyodor, however, as a youth, are wont to do, drifted away from this more traditional outlook. He started attending meetings of a radical anti-Tsarist socialist group called the Petrashevsky Circle. Well, Tsar Nicholas was not too happy about that. He would have none of it. He broke up the group, put the members on trial, and sentenced a number of them to death by firing squad, Dostoevsky being one of them. At the last minute, the execution was called off, and he ended up spending 4 years in a labor camp in Omsk, Siberia. And it was during that time that Dostoevsky rediscovered his more conservative roots and his childhood Christian faith. Now, fast forward to the 1860s. Dostoevsky writes a number of novels expressing his concern that Russia reject these Western European ideals and remain faithful to her Christian roots. Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons. And then he caps it all off with his most ambitious work, The Brothers Karamazov. Now, why read it? First of all, the problem of evil. Not for the faint of heart, friends. The question, the big question that we all ponder, but never seem to have a satisfactory answer. Well, Dostoevsky confronts it head on. He doesn't sweep it under the rug. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He deals with it. He also doesn't pretend like the answer is simple. He deals with it in a manner that's thoughtful, substantive, and even practical. I'm not going to give away here all that he says. You have to take it in the story. Number 2, cultural connections. This culture war, as we call it today, is eerily similar to the cultural milieu in the 19th century Russia. And it's one of the big questions being, how do parents respond when their children question the values and the faith that they were raised to believe? Big, big theme in the Brothers Karamazov. Number 3, philosophical and theological richness. In what could arguably be called the most famous chapter in any novel ever written, The Grand Inquisitor, Dostoevsky in this chapter skillfully lays out and confronts the complicated question of free will versus determinism. Look, regardless of what faith perspective you're coming from, you're going to enjoy Dostoevsky's treatment of these big questions. Questions like faith versus reason, the meaning of life, the afterlife, free will and determinism, the nature of God, As I mentioned earlier, theodicy, that is the problem of evil. And this is precisely why a number of non-Christian thinkers like Nietzsche and Freud admired Dostoevsky so much and were fascinated with this novel. Number 4, hope. I don't mind a good dystopian novel every once in a while. I like a dark story. I'm a big fan of Flannery O'Connor, but Dostoevsky tells the story of a self-serving and disgusting father whose sons have to grapple with the consequences of his sin. But he offers hope in this story, in the life of Father Zosima and his protege, Alyosha. Dostoevsky said himself that the theme of the Brothers Karamazov was John chapter 12, verse 24. That's the Gospel of John in the New Testament, which says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." Dostoevsky is highlighting the truth of the Christian gospel here: resurrection, new life, and hope, all springing from death and sacrifice. Finally, number 5, Zosima. Father Zosima is the mentor of Alyosha, the protagonist. There are entire chapters devoted to the sayings and sermons of this older, wiser monk. As you read his reflections on life and faith, you will be encouraged, convicted, overjoyed, challenged, ultimately changed. There you have it. 5 reasons why you should read the Brothers Karamazov. Hey, any questions or comments on my list? Questions about particular translations that would be good to use? Email me, Bruce@AlyoshaSociety.com.